Good morning, friends, and welcome to Take Two for this Wednesday, the 22nd of August, 2018. Well, I apologize for not being able to do my Take Two yesterday. Yesterday was a day filled with planes, trains, and automobiles as I made my way with my husband back to Alabama after 2 intense weeks in New York and Pennsylvania. Well, let me explain. You know, as many of you know, my mom passed away in June, at the end of June, and there were a lot of things, there are still a lot of things that need to be done, particularly with her home, the family home, which needed a great deal of cleaning out and organizing and so on. So Michael and I flew up there for 2 full weeks of working on the house and spending time with family and so on. And one of the things that we did on what would have been my mom's 89th birthday on August the 18th, on Saturday, was a handful of family members gathered at her grave, and we had just kind of like a little gathering, and we all spoke a few words and said a few things. And one of the things that came up, one of the highlights of this little gathering, was a poem that my sister read. Now, my mother was very sentimental in many ways. We sure learned that cleaning out her closet and her drawers of all the things, the greeting cards and all the things. She saved everything because she was very sentimental that way. And one of the things that she had in her wallet that she carried with her was a tattered little poem that had appeared in the newspaper. And it was so tattered and worn that my sister very carefully made sure that she made copies of it so that she'd have it intact. And she also retyped it on a piece of paper and then gave me, and kept one for herself, copies of it so that we could frame it and keep it. And she read this, and I'm going to read it to you today because it was very special. And it goes like this. It's called "Send Me All Your Flowers Now." That's the name of the poem. And it says, "I would rather have a single rose from a garden of a friend than the choicest flowers when my stay on earth must end. I would rather have the kindest words which may now be said to me than flattered when my heart is still and this life has ceased to be. I'd rather have a loving smile from the friends I know are true than tears around my casket shed when this world I've bade adieu. Bring me all your flowers, whether pink or white or red. I'd rather have one blossom now than a truckload when I'm dead." And that just is so Mary Pereno, because she was that way. She really would much rather, to her, the things that had great value were friendship, were love, were appreciation for doing costumes at the junior high or for baking a cake for somebody. And she countlessly, I can't count all the times that she did these things and got so many thank yous, and she kept every single thank you card. There were plaques, there were cards, there were cups, there was certificates. I can't count them all. So I started thinking about flowers, and what are flowers? Well, flowers are delicate, flowers are colorful, flowers are pretty. Flowers, they also, you know, roses, ooh, because of the delicate, they can also have thorns, so you have to be careful with your flowers. Well, flowers are a whole lot more than just something with leaves and color and fragrance. They are a smile. They are a hug. They are a kind word. They are a thank you. Those are the kinds of flowers that matter in this life. You know, I have been to funerals that were very elaborate, and there were gigantic sprays of flowers and assortments that probably cost tens of thousands of dollars altogether to do a funeral like that. Well, the person there could not say thank you because they're gone now. But what's the point of doing that? Wouldn't you rather take that money and do something kind for somebody? Now, I'm not saying, now some people did bring flowers to the grave when we had our little gathering, and that's fine, and it's lovely. Don't get me wrong. I want to bring balance to this. But everyone in attendance, the handful of people that we have, the closest family members, every single one of them had a clear conscience to be able to say, not only did I bring these kinds of flowers, but I also brought those other kinds of flowers. You know, there was a song years ago by Barbara Streisand and Neil Diamond called You Don't Bring Me Flowers Anymore. And it's about a marriage that has soured and about how there's no romance, there's no tenderness, there's no intimacy anymore like there used to be in the days when the husband brought the wife flowers. But of course, it goes way deeper than that, because instead of just having a bouquet of flowers, here, have these flowers, and there's no love in it, what's more important? There's a verse in the Bible that says, better is a dish of vegetables where there's love than a fattened ox with hatred in it. In other words, just because you give somebody stuff doesn't necessarily mean that it's showing tenderness and showing love. No, it's better to have something like a simple plate of vegetables, a carrot given with love is much more important than a feast given out of obligation or with hatred in it. No, these are the kinds of flowers I'm talking about, the kinds of flowers that mattered. Like the flowers in this poem, a loving smile, kind words, those kinds of a hug around the neck. Those are the kinds of flowers that matter. So here's the challenge that I'm going to leave you with today, boys and girls. I'm going to ask you if you know anybody out there who you should be bringing flowers to. Not necessarily these, although that might be nice too. No, I'm not talking about these kind necessarily. I'm talking about that loving smile, that kind word, that encouragement. Go be a blessing to somebody today. Bring some flowers to somebody today, because you know what? You might be the only one who does. You might be the only one who is that blessing to that person today who could just use a simple little flower in their life, okay? Please do that. And hey, I will share some more things later on about our trip to New York and Pennsylvania. It was pretty intense. And I'm going to ask you right now, would you like to bring me a flower? The flower you can bring me today is your prayers, because this is a challenging time. This is a very challenging time in my life, and it was a hard work, and it's a challenging time in the lives of my family members and the people who are closest to her. You know, there was one person who was a fringe person in my mom's life, and she kept saying, hey, Mary, I'm going to take you for breakfast. I'm going to take you for breakfast. One of these days, I'm going to take you for breakfast. And then she went in the hospital, and she's like, oh, when you get out of the hospital, I'll take you for breakfast. My mother got out of the hospital. She came back. Did she ever get her breakfast? No. Now, I'm not bringing condemnation on that person, but I do know this. When she went in the hospital the last time and she said, oh, when you get out, I'm going to take you out for breakfast. She never did, because my mother never came out of the hospital. That little flower that woman could have brought her, that taking out to breakfast, she never had that opportunity. So if you have somebody right now you're making promises to, make sure they're not empty ones, okay? Make sure that you take them that flower, okay? All right. Now, like I said, go be a blessing. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jeanne Sigler, Jeanne Sigler. Hit that subscribe button. And also, while you're at it, why don't you listen to some great music and great programming on WRMZ.org, okay? Click that listen button. And also, if you want to bring me another flower, click that donate button to keep us on the air. All right, everybody. Happy hump day. I love you all so much. I will see you tomorrow, I promise. And maybe I'll bring you a flower next time. Bye-bye.